allowed? Okay, what were you allowed to do? Okay, so here we are tonight, the LetGrow Summer of Independence with Park Slope parents and LetGrow, who we love, and we'll hear all about that, and Lenore Skenazy. And we want to thank our sponsor, New York Presbyterian. And Stefan, do you want to give a little blurb about why we're here and why you're helping?
Yeah, so I'm Stefan Beasley. I work on the community affairs team at New York Presbyterian, specifically at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. And we really value our partnership with Park Slope parents and all of the discussions that we've had from cradle to independence.
Don't say it.
Cradle to independence. So we have had discussion on nutrition, on mental health, on other aspects of raising babies and toddlers and adolescents and teens. And so we are excited to explore this topic and excited to get to know Lenore's work and to continue conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn me off, but I'll be right here. And
don't leave us. Thanks.
And then I also want to introduce Janice Osei, who is a intern for Park Slope parents for the last 3 weeks. And we've been partnering with Lenore on this great project and making sure that we have what I think, Lenore, you and I have loved the most is her perspective as
We have
kid.
somebody who's decades younger than us, actually giving us boots on the ground. Oh, kids say that? Oh, kids do that? Oh, that's good. Oh, really?
Yes.
That's interesting. She's giving me
So,
a lesson. So you know where we're at.
yes. So let's go ahead. We're going to start this off with a question and answer from Lenore, because we could throw up a bunch of slides and do all of that, but yeah, not that. So we're going to pin you, and currently we'll pin me as well. And we'll just have a discussion. Like, how did we get here? And so the first question is,
how did we get here?
why are you called the world's worst mom?
It's a softball question at this point. So do I have to look here, or can I look at you? Does it look horrible if I'm actually looking at you on my computer?
You can look wherever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay, so late for dinner. Here's what happened. When our younger son was 9 years old, he started asking me and my husband if we would take him someplace he'd never been before in New York City, right here. We were in Manhattan at the time, and let him find his own way home on the subway. And we talked about this, my husband and I, because our older son, who was 11 at the time, hadn't asked that same question, so we hadn't even figured it out yet. Older son calls himself the control group. And so we talked about, is he 9? We thought, well, we're on the subways all the time. He can read a map. He understands how the Metro cards work. Okay, we think he's ready and he thinks he's ready. So we'll do it. And so one sunny Sunday, I took him to Bloomingdale's, the one on 59. And I'm not even sure there is another one in the city. Anyways, took him to 59th Street, left him in the handbag department after telling him today was the day. Handbag department is right over the entrance to the subway. And so sure enough, he went down there and he got on the wrong side. He was on the uptown side. He talked to some guy. Am I going the right way? No, you want the downtown side. It's over there. Got over to the downtown side, took the train down, got off at 34th Street, took the crosstown bus to our apartment, and came into the apartment 3 feet taller than when he'd left, because he was so proud, so excited, so accomplished. It was just this great feeling for him. And back then I was a newspaper columnist for the New York Sun. So I wrote a column, Why I Let My 9-Year-Old Ride the Subway Alone. And 2 days later, I was on the Today Show, MSNBC, Fox News, and NPR, and Brian Lehrer. That's a fact I don't usually give to audiences elsewhere in the country, but Brian Lehrer too. And defending my decision to do this. And I got the nickname America's Worst Mom. So I started a blog called Free Range Kids to tell my side of the story, which is that I love safety. I love helmets, car seats, seat belts, mouth guards. I haven't gone out today. It's horrible weather. I don't want to breathe it in. So I really believe in safety. I just don't think kids need a security detail every time they leave the house. And we've sort of gotten to the point where we don't remember how much kids can do on their own. And so my slogan was, our kids are smarter, safer, and stronger than our culture gives them credit for. And last sentence is that from Free Range Kids, about 5 years ago, some brilliant people, including Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, and Peter Gray, who wrote Free to Learn, said, let's start a nonprofit to, to boost these ideas and to change behavior in America, to give parents the confidence to give their kids some independence and some free time and free play, because we're worried about the generation that's growing up so anxious and depressed. So together we started LetGrow, and that's what we do. We're making childhood independence easy, normal, and legal. Oh, wait, you're on mute. So
it's never a true Zoom unless somebody is on mute and talking. Right. So you're saying that we're growing up, our kids are growing up more anxious and more depressed, and we see all of these reports. How do you think the lack of independence feeds into that? Because a lot of people will say it's all social media, it's all social media. Yeah. But do you think it's all social media, or do you think it's more than that?
I think social media plays a role, but this decline in childhood mental health has been happening for decades, and including decades before social media came along. Our working theory is that when you have some independence and free play, let's talk about what they give you. When you're independent, you're going to be doing some things on your own. That's the whole idea. You're going to figure out something goes wrong. You're going to have to figure out how to do it. Yesterday, I've been talking about this for 15 years. Yesterday, I'm having dinner with my sister, and she says, I remember that time when I was like 9 or 10, and I rode my bike to the local pharmacy to get my mom something. And she said, I came out and I had a flat tire, and I had to get home with the flat tire. And so she had to walk the bike all the way home. And she's 60, maybe I can't say it. Let's say she's 60 something right now. And so this is a memory that's a half a century old, and it still meant something to her. And clearly it resonated. It was not the first person who's told me about a flat tire story being a really big deal in their childhood. Why? It's because that's when you realize, like, something went wrong and I can handle it. Anxiety is the opposite of that feeling. Anxiety is defined by feeling that you can't handle something. Something bad is going to happen. You won't be able to handle it, and you will be hurt forever. The hurt will not end. And so if you want to raise kids who are less anxious, they need a lot of experiences where they realize, like, that wasn't so hard, or, oh my God, that was so hard, but I did it. I rose to the occasion, or I barely rose to the occasion. I got home, it was nighttime, I got yelled at, but it's still okay. Mother Nature expected children to have all sorts of experiences to weave together the foundations of who they are in the world. And that includes joy and excitement and happiness and frustration and fear and risk. And if you only have the joy, I always think of it like weaving, like if you have the joy, the happiness, and I don't know, the excitement or the birthday party, but you don't have, sorry, this is like one way, the weaving through of the betrayals and the frustration and the disappointments, you don't have a safety net. There's too many holes to fall through like that. And so independence gives you some of the foundation of what it's going to take to be a well-adjusted person. The other thing that we've taken out of kids' lives in the past couple of decades is a lot of time for free play. And we've replaced it with something that looks like play because kids are running around, but it's actually an adult run activity. It's soccer, it's chess, it's roller skating lessons, it's tennis. And trust me, I put my kid in all of these. There's nothing wrong with giving your kids some lessons. But in addition to that, they need some time that is completely unstructured, when they can be hanging out with other kids and be bored or not be able to figure out what to do. And then they say, all right, well, let's play tag. Even to play a game of tag versus a complicated game of soccer run by an adult, a game of tag is who's going to be it. And where am I going to run? And what if I get caught? And what is my strategy? And I didn't think that that was fair. I thought I was holding the safe thing. And she said I wasn't. It's the arguing. It's the compromise. It's the, what do you do with your 3-year-old brother who's tagging along? Well, let's pretend that he's it and he'll have the greatest time. And that's empathy for a child. And then the little kid wants to be around these older kids. And so they sort of hold themselves together a little more because they don't want to be a baby around the 5-year-olds or the 7-year-olds. And so Mother Nature also expected kids to spend a lot of time in play, which is a lot of time arguing, hammering out the rules. That's not fair, feeling like somebody cheated, being snubbed because you're hogging the ball. And all these things take the rough edges off of a kid and turn them into a socialized, sociable human that other people want to be around, who can make things happen. When you take these things out of kids' lives, free time and free play, and you replace them with something where they're learning something that an adult is teaching them, it's sort of like more school. You're giving them that one skill, but you're not giving them everything that Mother Nature expected to be the foundation of a healthy, happy kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important. And, you know, Nancy McDermott and you and I have done we did a rethinking parenting webinar. I think it's been 2 years now. And we talked to you, and we talked to Micheline, who wrote
Duclef, yes, right. Hunt, Gather, Parent.
Duclef, who wrote Hunt, Gather, Parent, which is another book that talks about this idea of more independence and more play and chores and responsibility. Yeah. And I think, you know, Nancy's book talks so well about the fact that we have groomed parents now to be worried about everything. You know, she goes all the way back to fetal alcohol syndrome, when anything you put in your body can affect your baby.
Right. You have one of those bonbons that has a little cordial inside it. It's like all bets are off.
Right. And so, you know, one of the things that I like about her book is it kind of takes off the sense of like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. It's like we have socialized parents to be fearful, to think about how marketing has said, you need to have the owlet ankle bracelet to tell your kid. And we did this once with you, and I did this once, and somebody wrote, my pediatrician said I should get this. Now, I don't know if it was something that came out of
we have to pause for a second and explain that the owlet is a little gizmo that you put on your child's ankle when they're babies, when they're first born. And it gives you a readout to your iPhone that tells you not only are they breathing? Are they moving? Are they sleeping? Are they pooping? It tells you their blood oxygen level and their blood pressure level. And it was something that was designed for the neonatal intensive care unit if you have a child who is so endangered that they have to be at the hospital. So what was interesting about that, and what Susan is saying, is that what we've been groomed to believe is that every second of our kids' lives must be monitored by us, because otherwise they're goners. And there's no distinction between a happy, bouncing baby boy or girl and a child who's in an oxygen tent at the hospital. So really, we've been rewired to think of our kids as constantly in danger, which is why we are always supervising and structuring their time, because we're worried that they're going to be hurt or fall behind. And that's what takes away the independence and the free play that I think are so important. And Susan is really right to say also chores. I totally missed the boat on chores with my own kids. With me, it's only cleaned up because you're here on this webinar. But chores are a good thing too.
Yeah. So we've been conditioned to worry about every single aspect of our child. And I know that there's a lot of people, my kids are both in college, and there was this sense of like, we also have to groom for the perfect college application, that they have this and they have that. And so I feel like so much of it is all riding on what's going to make them happy when they're 22, when they graduate college.
Right.
But there is this idea, and it came up because we read through, we have 107 or more people who signed up for this event. And we said,
where are you?
They're there. They're just going to watch later. But what do they want to get out of this event? And a lot of it was, how do I do these things when other people may call the cops, or other people may call ACS, or I will be judged. I will be judged. And part of the hesitancy, some people, at least who signed up for this, have about giving more independence is that they'll be judged by other parents. So how can parents worry less and not worry about whether or not they're going to be shamed by other people? And well, you're not watching your kid. And don't even get me started on nannies who get paid to watch. And if they take their eyes off, then they could lose their job.
Right. I sometimes think that that's a stealth reason that we're so worried. It's because this is just a sort of sidebar, but because like I hired a nanny, and nanny's full-time job is to watch the kid full-time. So while I can be with my kid and be on the phone at the park, and that's not the worst thing, or I could be stirring the spaghetti sauce and my kids could be in the next room. If a nanny were doing that, that might be considered shirking her responsibility, which is to always be watching, stimulating, and assisting the child. So I sort of think that nannies sort of changed the sort of what normal parenting looks like. I mean, parents started trying to be like nannies, which is every single second is focused on the child and nothing but the child. But how do you deal with the fact that you may be judged? First of all, everybody's judging everybody all the time, just the way it is. You're too lax, you're too straight, you know, oh my God, you care so much about organic food. Oh my God, you're feeding him that Oreo that's been deep fried. So everybody is judging. That's sort of just the world. But when we started LetGrow, I said, I'm tired of people agreeing with the idea that we have to give kids more independence and more free play, but not being able to do it in their own lives, because you can't be the only parent sending your kid to the park. They're going to be back in 2 minutes because there's nobody to play with. It's boring, right? And you can't be the only one sending your kid to the store because it's strange, right? But if a school, and this is why we work with LetGrow through the schools, if a school does what we call the LetGrow project, and I'm going to give 2 quick pitches for the LetGrow project and the LetGrow Play Club, which are done through schools, but it's all free. So it's not like I'm making money on it. The LetGrow project is a homework assignment that teachers download from our site, from LetGrow. And it says, it tells the students, go home and do something new on your own without your parents. And the kids come home and it's all the kids in the class or the grade or the school district. And they're all telling their parents, I have to do something by myself. And all the parents are calling each other. What did you see? We got that too. Yeah. What are you going to let her do? Well, maybe mine could go and get ice cream with yours. Okay. Or what do they want to do? They want to go to the park. Okay. Well, there's a couple of kids who want to do that together. And that's how you renormalize the idea of parents letting go, is if a bunch of them are doing it at the same time. And it's easier for parents to let go when an authority, the school, their kid's teacher, is saying that this is not only appropriate, it's good. It's something we want the kids to do. And so it's an assignment for the kid, but it's really for the parent. And what I've seen over and over again is how quickly the extreme fear of I couldn't let her go off the block. What if I don't see her around the corner, melts into joy and excitement at seeing your kid doing something on their own. That's the only thing that rewires parents. And I was just talking to a psychologist who explained it's because in your mind, you have a picture of your kid being hurt or scared or lonely or you being bad or judged. And that picture is looping through. And the only thing that can change the picture is literally a new picture. Now my kid is coming through the door with the bread. Now my kid is coming up to the garage and she's bringing her bike with the flat tire. You see that picture and it replaces the old picture, which was your imagination, with a real and vibrant picture of your child blossoming as a young person who's doing things. So the LetGrow project helps get a lot of people on board at once, and you don't have to feel about judgment because everybody's doing it. And the other thing is to keep the schools open for mixed age, no devices, free play after school, which we call a LetGrow Play Club. So, sorry, I was going on to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, going back to what people said they'd like to get out of this. And a lot of it was about how do I manage my own fear? and I'm going to tell a story that I've told you before, Lenore, and that
Let's hear it.
was, I was at 107, which is 13th Street and 8th Avenue, and we were walking down to 11th Street and 3rd Avenue. And 4th Avenue is pretty busy. So we get across 4th Avenue, and my kids, I had 2 of them, they would run ahead.
Still do.
I still do.
Yes, crucial part of the story.
One of them graduated. They're out of here. They're not a kid of mine anymore. Anyway, we're at 4th Avenue. They're running down with a girl from this dance class that they're going to. And about a third of the way down, I hear the mom next to me, and she says, "Hey, slow down, slow down." And I said, "Oh, why?" And then got about halfway down and said, "Stop." And I said to her, I said, "Why can't they run all the way down to the corner? The dance class is right at the corner." And she goes, "I'm afraid somebody's going to stop their car on 11th Street, see the kid without a parent, and kidnap them." Wow. This was like a real fear of this person's. And I just got really sad because, and we can talk about the statistics, and we'll send those out. We're creating a resource guide, but just this fear that just allowing your kid to walk run down one of the avenues could lead to some random person driving down the street and opportunistically going, I can steal that kid.
There's certainly nobody else looking in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
Quiet little street. Yeah,
So tell us about the statistics, because I know I also hear from people that go, I'm okay giving them freedom, but my partner's not. So tell me about at least the stranger danger and the abduction words.
Yes. With pleasure, which is a strange thing to say. So I'll ask, I'm going to bring Stefan on for this, and then I have Janice for something else that I want to talk about. But Stefan, I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot, and actually I'll ask anybody to answer in the Q&A. If you, for some reason, wanted your child to be kidnapped by a stranger, how long do you think you would have to leave them outside without you anywhere near for it to be statistically likely that this would happen? So how long, what period of time would you have to keep them outside without your eyes on them before it would be statistically likely that they'd be kidnapped by, some random guy?
So you're asking me this question?
I'm asking anyone who's bold enough to write something in the chat there. You can all weigh in. All 14 of you can think about how long you think that would have to be.
I mean, I guess.
People have a lot of different ideas. I mean, like nobody gets it right. Just let me put it.
Like maybe like 3 hours.
3 hours.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
To be like fully kidnapped. I think like a lot of people would be altruistic to have her try to be found.
Right. But if you kept them out a couple hours, somebody would probably come and get them. Right. So that's what a lot of people are thinking. I mean, Susan's friend was thinking that it was 2 seconds, in front of them on the block, and that they would be taken. I'm just going to look in Q&A really quick to see if anybody else said that. Some number more than 1 million years. No, not quite 100 years. Interesting. 5 years and 5 minutes. 5 years, 5 minutes is really interesting. The answer that I wrote in my book, because the numbers were crunched for me by a statistician, were it's 750,000 years for it to be statistically likely, because kidnapping by a stranger is the rarest of crimes. We think it's happening all the time because Law and Order SVU is on all the time, right? But in fact, it's, the vast majority of kids who are missing are runaways, or they're kids who went to the friend's house and they forgot to call their parents. It's a crime that looms really large in our brains and really small, thank God, in terms of numbers. It's about 100 kids a year. About 30% of them, the parents don't even know that they're gone. They're living in such chaotic circumstances. So it's, anything else with numbers that small, 1 out of 1.5 million, we sort of don't think about. But in fact, we think about this one a lot. So because statistics don't move anybody, I mean, they're just sort of like, wow, that's really weird, or I hadn't thought of it that way. I I have to fall back on the idea that the only thing that I've seen that rewires anyone is seeing their kid do something independently, maybe once or twice, and then this relaxation that comes from reality instead of law and order in our heads. And at this point, I'd love to turn to Janice, whose parents were very afraid and weren't going to let her do anything, and how she approached that, because she brought reality into their lives.
Okay, so from my perspective, like originally I was in the 6th grade, being from New York City. I wanted my parents to let me go take the train, take the subway by myself to school. And I was only in 6th grade. I was their firstborn child. They just came to America about like 6-ish years ago. And they were like so worried, like, my child wants to go on the subway by herself. The subway has all these dangers, X, Y, and Z. So how I, along with some help from my grandparents, convinced my parents to let me go on the subway, I presented them like a little slideshow, like showing them like all their worries. So basically I listed, their concerns, like the cost of the subway. Well, they knew that, but like then what time I would get to school, how I would get home. I told them, I had a phone on me, so worst case scenario, they could call me. But the slideshow really allowed me to like show my parents, like break down every single one of their individual worries, and then address those worries in the sense that, they're no longer as worried as they were before. And it gave them more trust for us and developed our relationship to the point where now, like, my parents could like send me to a whole nother state by myself, and they're fine with that because, they have that trust and bond with me. So, yeah.
Can you pull up your slideshow? Because it is so awesome.
Okay, so the one that Susan Fox is talking about is another slideshow I made for my parents when I was trying to convince them to let me go to the movie theaters with my friends. And it actually kind of worked. And basically, okay, let me see if I have permission to share screen.
Oh,
okay, I do. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
yes. I love that it's proposal. So official.
So it was called a movie theater proposal. And basically what I showed the location of where my house was to the movie theater, and like the Uber drive. So basically the distance from my house to the movie theater. So my parents knew like it was relatively close. I told them like the cost of the ticket because they didn't know anything about the movie theater, the day it was releasing, the time, the genre, what type of movie it was PG-13. And then my next time I called problems to solve. No, I was like 6th, 7th grade when I wrote this, so the language might be a bit childish. But first problem was the fact that it was late at night because it was running to like 7 or 8 p.m. at that time. So this resolution was like, it's daylight savings time. So the sun will still be out by the time the movie is finished. My second thing was location. And as I said, it was relatively close to my house. I showed them the distance, so they saw that. Plus, I said, I had Life 360 for them to check on me. And another funny story is that I'm the one in my family who, enforced everyone to have Life 360, and then my parents making us all get Life 360 because I feel like, it helped alleviate their fears of thinking, where are my children at? And to be honest, they actually never use it, ever. Like my parents will still call me like, Janice, where are you? Even though they have my location.
Maybe they don't know how to use it. Maybe they're like me.
Even though they have my location, they still call me. But it's the fact that, we've been able to develop that trust and bond that they know, I don't really have to stalk and check on my child because I granted her this measure of independence. And she's proven to me that, she's able to handle it. And then, the next 2 points, people who are going, I showed them my friends' names and their phone numbers. And I told them you can call an Uber if anything. That was my sample slideshow I made back in maybe 2012. And that's why I showed my parents to help convince them that, hey, I would like to go to the movie theaters, and these are the reasons why you should let me go.
I love that slideshow so much, and I'm so happy we're recording this because I'm going to snip that part out and put it on the LetGrow blog as as evidence of like, kids have this drive. They have the drive to play. They also have the drive, even Stefan is nodding along, to explore, to be part of the world, to be helpful, to be not a baby, right? You knew you were ready to do this by yourself. Stefan, when we were discussing this evening, a couple days ago, you mentioned what you did as a kid, right? You used to go and what?
So yeah, I was raised, I was a 80s baby, 90s kid. And I mean, by the mid to late 80s, I had an entire life in our apartment complex. I'm in my hometown of Louisville. I definitely knew how to go into a store and purchase something. And I mean, quite honestly, that stranger danger sort of news was really at a fever pitch already on nighttime television, on all the scandal shows, the 2020s, the current affairs, the Inside Edition, the cops, the unsolved mysteries.
I got it. We get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those shows out there.
Yeah, they were there already,
yeah.
but we saw I definitely, had independence and knew, like, I find a lot of children today don't, in the later single digits, even 10, 11, I kind of don't know where they are geographically. And I feel like that's an issue too. Like, I'm constantly trying to have my 9-year-old bonus son, like, hey, like, what borough are we in? Where are we? Have you seen this before? Could you get back to your house in an emergency? And he's annoyed by me asking these questions. But I just think that, that autonomy is, a very important life skill to have, and a very important to just your development, like, as a person.
Yeah, it's heartening and it's poignant to hear how important this is to kids and how easily we dismiss it, thinking that we're keeping them safe. I mean, that's the reason. It's because we love them and we want to keep them safe. But, keeping them safe from something that almost never happens, the rarest of crimes, versus exposing them to perhaps, this is an era where the kids are feeling more anxious and depressed and rotten things like that. And part of the reason is that, it's like a racehorse in the stable. It's like, I know I can. Why don't you trust me? And when you do earn your parents' trust, which Stefan, it sounds like you got early, and Janice, it sounds like you developed, your parents, you showed your parents who you were, and then they responded by recognizing that. There's nothing more important than having someone who believes in you. I mean, that's what the psychology journals say. Like, if you're a kid and as you're growing up, there's somebody who believes in you and thinks, like, you can do it, and I know you can, and you might not realize it, but you're going to be okay. That person is the wind beneath your wings. And we'd like to be that person for our kids. But if we're always telling them we love you so much that we want to be with you all the time, and we don't trust you, we love you, but we don't think you can handle anything on your own, that can be galling. And what's neat is that, Janice, now you and your parents are on the same page, which is you're responsible, they respect you, and you respect them. It's this dyad. And because we live in a culture that is feeding us so much fear, Stefan just gave us a list of 10 terrifying television shows that, colonize television. I'm mad at a culture that has taken away our belief in our kids and left us terrified and left them stunted. And so, as I've said a couple of times, the only thing that can reverse that is us as a group, as a generation, as parents who love our kids, to step back and watch them step up, because that will change us and will change them. And we can say, screw you to this culture that's trying to make us worried about every single second that our kids are, like, from one second to the next, if they're going to be alive. It's a terrifying way to live. And it's ungrateful to an era that we're living in, when we, have a plentiful food supply and, diphtheria is gone, but it's undermining our kids. And when we ask all these questions, I read the questions from the Park Slope Parents List. There's so much anxiety. That anxiety can be abated really quickly by trusting your kid to go to the movies.
So Stefan, tell me again how old your younger child is?
9.
I have an 18-month-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay.
Oh,
So the next question is this idea of starting early. Like there's that show Old Enough where they send some 4-year-old, and we won't show the clip.
in
but, you
Japan.
know, in Japan, and they have, probably a camera crew of 15 people following this little kid to do some chore. But what are the things that we can do in starting early to help kids on the road to independence, Lenore?
Oh, thanks. Well, I probably won't send them at age 4 to get the sushi fish, which is what they constantly do on that show, which I love. It's really adorable, but I don't think, 3 and 4-year-olds are going to be running errands. 3 and 4-year-olds want to help around the house. What I learned from that book that Susan mentioned earlier, Hunt, Gather, Parent, is that kids desperately want to be helpful. They don't want to just be given stuff, even though they might seem like they want that. And that desire peaks, starts out as fervent at age 2 or 3 or 4, when you might think like, oh my God, having them help is worse than not having them help. Now they're, splashing the milk on the floor, and now I got to clean it up and it's taking forever. But if you are willing to tolerate some of the amateurishness of a toddler helping you, you will be rewarded by actually a teeny bit of help, but also nurturing a helping person. And as I say, I blew it on this. So do it sooner. I wish I had. I'd say in terms of what kids can do at what ages, our culture is usually like years and years. We think that like kids can't cross the street till 10 is what the American Academy of Pediatrics says. Well, I crossed the street at 5. And in the rest of the world, kids are all walking to school by age 7. So you can't really go by the social norms here. You sort of have to go by what you did. So Stefan, if you were going to the store and having the run of the apartment complex at what age? 7, 8? What were you?
In the complex 6, but I feel like, are you asking me like when I crossed the street by myself?
I'm asking when you were allowed to be outside by yourself, and then how the parameters grew.
Yeah, I think that there was a convenience store
There
across
always
the
is.
street from the apartment complex. And I think that I guess I must have been 8 by the time I could like leave the apartment complex to go to that store. Yeah.
Well, it brings up the question, Lenore, that somebody posted in the chat or in the Q&A. How about getting hit by a car? That's their fear.
That's my fear. That's my big fear is cars. Well, as always, our job is not to just throw them in the street and say, good luck, kid. Lenore said I could put you outside and you'd be fine. It's like, no, our job has always been to teach kids how to be safe. And certainly when it comes to crossing the street, I actually don't remember why we learned it this way, but in kindergarten, we were learned, look left, look right, look left again. Why do we have to do it that? Do you have any idea? Did you guys learn it that way too?
That's how I learned it as well. Even when I was driving, like that's how they taught me in driving school. Look left, look right, and look left again.
What's with the left? Yeah.
I don't, maybe it's like act of like reassurance. So you like no. But the question would be like, why don't you like right again too as well?
Yeah, really. Oh, right. It doesn't matter about that tractor, Anyway, so you teach them that. You teach them to make eye contact with the driver. If it's if it's a terrible intersection where you live, you should ask the school to provide a crossing guard. If that's what you're trying to do, is have the kid walk to school. One thing I will say is that when I'm with my kids, and they're in their 20s, okay, but when I'm with my kids, I think they cross the street horribly. Like they might glance down at their phone, which drives me crazy. I just hate that. And they're not like me. They're not obsessed with, the dangers of being in the crosswalk. But on the other hand, they're walking all the time that I'm not with them. And so I think that one of the reasons that we think our kids can't handle things is because when we're with them, we handle things. And everybody always hands over responsibility. It's easier not to have to deal with things. It's sort of like when we're with our kids, we're the drivers and they're the passengers. And they will never learn, neither will your 9-year-old, Stefan. They will never learn where they are or what borough or how to get anywhere while, I know this for a fact, while you're in the passenger seat, because you don't have to,
Right.
right? So
Right.
until we actually step back and let the kid take the metaphorical driving seat, or actually literally cross the street without us, we've taught them, we've watched, and now we're without them. You will always think that they can't do it, because when you're with you, they sort of hand over the reins, and they are bad at doing everything because we're doing it for them. I just have to tell you one quick story. At a school that did the LetGrow project, where the kids have to do things on their own, I was there 2 weeks later, and I asked the principal, can you tell, if anything has changed? Is like, how are the kids doing? And she said, well, yeah, actually, there's fewer kids sticking out their feet. Sticking out their feet. I was like, what are you talking about? Because I thought, like, was everybody tripping each other and now they're nicer? I mean, like, that wasn't even a premise of mine. And she said, no, now there are fewer kids sticking out their feet for the teacher to tie their shoes. So that's what I'm talking about. A little independence changes kids. And the ones are like, I can't do it for me. Can you get that for me? I'm bored, play with me. That doesn't all disappear, even from me, but it is replaced in a lot of cases and a lot of situations by something that the kids love, which is what Janice has talked about: being trusted, being responsible, proving herself, enjoying the world, making some of her own decisions, her own mistakes, her own plans. Kids have that drive, and to keep squashing it under, no, I'll do it for you, I'm better at it, you're bad, you're spacey, you're incompetent, you're in danger. That's the anxiety again. Oh, I can't do it, I shouldn't do it, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, mom will help me, I'm in danger. I'm like drifting off because I don't want parents to feel like I'm blaming them, because I hope, if nothing else from this conversation, you understand that I am mad at our culture that has made us all so scared.
Yeah.
The fact that everybody is feeling this, Janice, I'm sure your parents, wherever they were walking to wherever they were at 5, 6, 7, 8, and Stefan was doing it at age 6. And now we're all scared and thinking not 9, not 10, and that the kids will be disappeared and kidnapped in 5 minutes. That's a culture that has brainwashed us with fear.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we did in putting this together was this idea of people wanted tips, people wanted things to do, tangible things. I think we've kind of grounded into our fabric that, yes, these are it's important to give them independence. So how do we do that? And so we are going to post this after the event and send it out to everybody and put it on the website and et cetera, et cetera. But it's the Summer of Independence resource package. And so I've pulled quotes, I've pulled lots of different things. For example, it can be so hard to let go, but we owe it to our kids. And then we owe ourselves a brownie.
Always.
But here's ways, because this came out, there were more people worried about their own fears than about their kids' fears. So how do you manage your own fears of safety? And on the LetGrow website, there's a lot of facts and research. Last week, somebody said, I'm worried about a nefarious stranger. Get the facts and worry less about that. And I know that Lenore is not so, get a walkie-talkie instead of a smartphone, because there's also a lot of issues around how do we keep if they have tech, they're going to be on it, but walkie-talkie, you don't have access to Instagram. Culture underestimates what kids can do, overestimates danger. And I love this graphic that's on the LetGrow Instagram page. Instead of be careful, we got to kind of scrap the be careful. I know you can do it. Nice job. What's your plan? I love that one. Instead of be careful, that assumes something's going to happen if you're not careful. And know that they might fail at a task, get some bumps and bruises, but this will help them grow. Stefan and the gang talked about this idea of baby steps. Give them little ways to be independent. And here's your to-do list, parents. There's a LetGrow license. I am not lost or neglected. Here's my name, I follow safety rules. I'll not go off with strangers. If you're gonna let your kid go, laminate that, put it in their pocket. There is a wonderful LetGrow independence kit that has lots of ways to help your kid become more independent. There's also, what's the other one? The LetGrow pledge. If you sign the LetGrow pledge, you'll get 10 weeks of these simple steps to give your kids more freedom. This is from, and there's a list of resources, but another really good book is How to Raise an Adult by Julia Lythcott-Hames. And she talks about giving them unstructured time.
I'm
value
really big
that.
on this.
And one of the things that happens, and I was talking to a nanny in the park last week, and she told me the story of being at 3:21, and another nanny was picking up the 10-year-old who was playing in the playground and said, we need to go to your piano classes. And the kid screamed at the top of his lungs, I'm tired of piano classes. I just want to play with my friends.
Yep.
And I thought that was so important. I thought that was so important to be able to, I'm not sharing, but am I sharing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all sharing.
It's
right
still
there, yeah.
on.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. And then go ahead.
I think that I really have had a lot of reflection since our discussion about the concept of unstructured time and how important I think that it really can be, especially in the context of people of color. I feel like folks create, well, people of color or people who have huge, big aspirations for their children, or people who come from families that are very aspirational. I think that there really is a lot of anxiety that is created and a lot of obsessive behaviors and just general feeling sort of pinned up and pinned down to a schedule that can be created and really have its roots in childhood. Like, oh, we got to keep them busy. They got to be busy all the time. Like, really, they don't. And also, there does need to be space in between. And yes, I mean, having passions and cultivating passion, cultivating interests in your children is very important. But this space and time for them to just play, for them to just be, for them to, not have something every single day and night and second of the week really is important, because I feel like I'm really starting to see it manifest in, I've already seen it manifest in myself and in like generations that are younger than me who, we were kept busy to the 15-minute mark, and it just really creates a lot of undue stress. So
Yeah,
I think that
I do. And if you think, the Park Slope Parents has a guide to birthday parties, and here's how to do this, but another, and I'm going to reiterate this idea of to have a community that supports you in your decision to not be so anal and not feel so, well, if you don't like it, lump it, but going to birthday parties with your kids, like a Build-A-Bear and Chuck E. Cheese and cupcake decorations. How about just go out to the park if you can, or rent a big space if it's the winter, and let them play. Get a bunch. I walked by a block party the other night, and they just had a bunch of boxes, like build something. Give the kids the ability to do that. And we're going to start a chat group for, free range kids. So if you say, hey, I'd love to go to the Zucker play area and let my kids run around, does anybody want to go with me? And so we're going to start that. Combine forces on technology. There's a wait till 8th, and we're going to put that in there. Don't let your kid have a smartphone that's going to divert their attention, because, and we have to be better about it ourselves as well, and us not being on the phone. Then in this resource packet is what's a kid to do, venturing out alone, things that you can, and I'm not going to say run an errand, you can do it at 6 because it depends on your own children. But here's venturing out alone, taking more responsibility, doing things with friends, doing things alone, making money even, that can give a lot of power to people. Playing outside, I mentioned the Zucker play area. Here's a different version of the I'm not lost or neglected. Here's a map of these wonderful places you can go. The yard at Governor's Island. I hear wonderful things about the yard at Governor's Island where you can just go and parents aren't allowed to go in there. So I think that that's important. We haven't had much time to talk about chores, but start them young. And Micheline's book really talks about this idea of letting them feel like they're part of the family, that they're giving to the family. Because if you just, and this is part of the idea with a lot of people are like, well, I have a cleaning person come every 2 weeks. Well, that means that maybe it needs to be every 3 or 4 weeks if you need a really deep clean, but let the kids clean up more. And here is a list of age appropriate chores and, guidelines, give chores that value kids, don't hover or micromanage. Because if you're going to just tell them exactly how to do it, they're going to feel defeated. You can make it more fun with music. My mother she used to go, let's set the timer for 5 minutes and see if we can get the kitchen clean.
Once a year, that's what I do too.
That was an amazing motivator for me to go, let's see if we can get it done in 5 minutes. I actually now put on Hamilton's Satisfied song and see if I can get the kitchen clean. Here's age specific chores. We'll add to that. Here's somebody, I make breakfast for my mom every day at age 9. Like they can do this, wash dishes and put them away, going to the grocery store. I love this success story. My 10-year-old wanted to learn to sew. I taught her the basics. Then she sewed. There is a list. Sabrina loves the fact that one of her college suite mates had no idea, he'd never done laundry before. Never done laundry before.
It's
so
real.
There were just piles of clothes. And as she would
Some people get through college without doing it.
You went through college without doing it?
No, he said
some people get all the way, like they are
Yes.
motivated for
Yes.
someone else to be doing
Yes.
it.
I mean, there was a hope that we would have some sort of big outdoor play thing tomorrow or the next day as part of this growing independence thing. But now the weather's shitty, but there is a lot of different ways. Teach your kid how to cook an egg in a frame, teach your kid how to cook pasta. Even, I'm a butter knife fan. I don't think my kid's going to stab their eye out with a butter knife. There are a lot, there's a wooden knife. You can cut banana slices with
a
with
wooden
these
knife
little
sounds
wooden
like the
knives.
worst idea. It's like we got over that in the Paleolithic era. Like let's use flint. That's great. Hey, I like that.
Janice, what were you going to say?
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, okay. But so anyway, so then there's more readings, obviously Lenore Skenazy's Free Range Kids. It's in the 2nd edition. It's a great book to help you calm yourself and say, this is what I need to be doing. This is what I need to be doing. I threw in continuum concept, which is given to this idea of, oh, this is what attachment parenting, but actually, and I love saying this, a lot of us treat our children, here is my child, here is the universe. It's Saturday. What are we going to do for the kid? We're going to sign them up for this and this and this and this. But what you can do is, my child is part of the bigger universe. Fold your children in to what you're already doing. Can they learn colors by going to the grocery store? Yes, they can learn that oranges are orange and apples can be red or green. But I feel like so much of we gotta order
Gotta take them to
out.
color class.
Yes. And so giving our children the ability to do more things that fold them into society instead of putting them on this pedestal. And this is what Julia Lithgott-Haynes' book is all about, is we're really setting our kids up by giving everybody a trophy and not letting them play or have to do chores because, well, they had school and then they had this and this and this, and now they have to do homework. Don't get me started on homework. But so this idea that we can give them little steps, even at 2 or 3, we can let them bring their plate up. We can let them wipe down the table. And in doing so, we give them little pieces of independence. And by giving them little pieces of independence, that will allow them to feel more agency, more self-reliance. And this, I agree with you, Lenore, this will bring down this instance. I'm not saying social media isn't to partly blame, but they'll be more resilient if they're not on their phones and they're outside playing with their friends.
Amen. And I love your list. I mean, gosh, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. That's a great list.
Well, that was part of the LetGrow list. So don't,
other stuff too. Yeah. Anyways, it's great. It's nice to have it all in one place.
And one other thing, and maybe people can put ideas in the Q&A, but right now, 4th Street between 5th Avenue and 4th Avenue, actually the cul-de-sac is now a play street. It's the 4th Avenue Plaza. Your kids, there's tables there. They can go eat lunch, have them make their own lunch, go eat lunch at the table. They can ride their bikes, they can skateboard. There's a skate park, and there is always somebody from 9 to 5 at the Old Stone House. They just have to knock on the door. There's Kim, there's Maggie, there's Madeline. Hey, this happened, can you help me? So if they really need something, there's somebody there, but it's not somebody hovering and telling them they're doing it wrong.
You got it made if you're in Brooklyn. What can I say? Great place. I live in Queens. Queens is a great place too, but
Queens is a fabulous place. And I'm trying to, I live here and I am here now, and I really have to, it just doesn't show you itself the way Brooklyn does.
Yeah.
Kind of have to
well, why don't we have people in the Q&A? Why don't we have people put one thing they got out of this discussion?
Yes.
That is something that they're going to take away as a good thing to lead into the summer. So one thing that you'll take away
in here too.
Yes, and
wait, can I write in this thing? I have to write in Q&A. What do I write in?
If you put it in chat, I can at least you can say it, but you can put it in the chat.
I think I'll type mine as an answer to somebody.
Oh, okay, that'll work.
Okay. Wait, say it again. Sorry. One thing.
Once you get out of it.
What's the one thing you will do to help your child be more independent or for you to be less stressed? Something that you're walking away from on this. I've got never too early for chores. And someone else said they do make child-safe knives. My 5-year-old was cutting strawberries for herself during this webinar. Yay.
Wow, that's cool.
If you're ready for some independence, make a PowerPoint for your parents. I feel like we need to do this for kids. Because obviously Janice grew up with stressed out parents, and you had to convince your parents. And you're, never too early for chores. I'm going to teach my kids to cross roads, and then the world is theirs, including butter knives at Beal. I'll give my 4-year-old chores. She asked me to give chores. And I think,
there's a new book coming out by a woman named Jennifer Wallace, and it's called Never Enough. But her basic premise is that we all want to matter to someone, and so that's part of it too. If they only matter to us because they're beloved and we want to do everything for them, we're not allowing them to matter to us as helpers, doers, partners in life, as opposed to just the prince that we keep giving things to.
Yeah, that's the put them in the center and make them the center of the universe, as opposed to everybody working together. Yeah, I really like that idea. Do you know what John Haidt's new book is about that you can tell us?
It's about, gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically why kids are falling apart. And it's social media and a lack of independence and free play. So we're not the first half of the book, but we got the second half of the book.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be out in a year.
Yeah, someone once told me that your children come and they are part of your life. You are not, they do not become your entire life, and you are not, you know, just some part of their life. You know, they came to be part of your life because your life came, you were here first, kind of
Right.
Yes. I
Nana,
like
you were
that.
here first.
thing. Yeah.
So I will leave with this one last quote, which is, parents who seek to preserve their children's happiness by constantly protecting them from adversity can rob them of the coping strategies that are crucial for their long-term happiness. So we have to let our kids have the freedom, the independence, the problem solving,
Yeah.
or we're really doing them a disservice and allowing them the independence and more free time, more unstructured time to play is going to help us as parents be less stressed. It's gonna help world peace.
There you go. Or at least peace in your house.
At least peace in your house.
Yeah.
Janice, thank you so much for your thoughts.
And being
Stefan,
the perfect example. Oh my God.
oh yeah, that was a really good example. We love that. And you know, Lenore, as always, I'm really, really glad you let your kid walk or take the subway by themselves, because I really don't believe we would have this movement without you.
That's very cool. Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad too. I wouldn't have had a job. So, see, he helped me. His chore was giving me a new career.
So thanks everybody for joining us.
Mhm.
Let's keep up the conversation. I'll post a link to the new chat that we'll put on Signal, and we'll make some changes and build a community that supports independence.
All right.
All
Have a
right.
great
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you for organizing it.
Good night.
Okay, all
Bye.
right, bye.